Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to New Right Network's original series, Smith TV. Your host, Brian Smith, giving you all the breaking news of the day, wrapping it all up, making sense of it, exposing the fake news, and giving you the real news. Here at New Right Network, newrightnetwork.com, we got a wealth of information and writers. So jump over to newrightnetwork.com, check out all the articles that are being written. Real news, not fake news, not propaganda that you're going to get from CNN, MSNBC. And some of the folks at Fox News are starting to slip on it. I'm not liking it too much. Can't trust the mainstream media. This is where you get your real news from, right here at SmythTV. So if you want to jump over to SmythTV, become a Patreon of ours, help support new news media. Much obliged. Appreciate it. With that being said, this weekend was a busy weekend. And in case you don't know, or you don't have the Smith calendar, every year, if you're a first-time viewer, every year we come out with a Smith calendar. It was Smith radio calendar, and now it's going to be Smith TV calendar, Smith television. And throughout the entire year, you can see the different dates that are very relevant to your life and America, as well as a lot of historical dates that tend to be left off of calendars. And this date I never leave off the calendar because infidels need to know the day that Ramadan begins. Ramadan is a month-long terrorist attack on the world, a month-long purge, if you will, that Islamists around the world take to the streets and innocent lives of those who are infidels and do not bow down to Islam. Be warned that they are coming for you. And Ramadan started just on this weekend, and Israel felt the brunt of that. And so we'll get into the news and what's going on with Islam around the world and Ramadan, and what the Democrat Party is saying about it, what the Democrat candidates, more than 2020 running for the Democrat nomination, what they're saying about Islam and Ramadan, or what they're not saying. We'll get into all that. Great news coming out of the Trump administration, the Trump economy. We're going to get all the details of the economy. It is just really just soaring. And we've got some great articles written at newrightnetwork.com on the economy. Jump over there, check the show notes in the bottom, and you click the links. All the links are there. All the names are there. The people to follow on Twitter are there as well, down in the show notes. And I'll be giving them a shout out as well. Some updates on the Russia Gate or Spy Gate. We've got some developing stories. We've been saying this all along, and everything we've been talking about all along, we just haven't had the smoking gun. We haven't had the physical proof to show what we've been saying about Spy Gate, Russia Gate, and now all of a sudden, all the details are starting to come out, and light, the best disinfectant, if you will, is starting to come out and shine on these individuals. More obstruction from the Democrats as Trump savage moments. We'll get into that. I had a good friend, Real MAGA Steve, at Real MAGA Steve, and the Trump's most savage moments. We'll probably get to that at the very end of the show, but definitely got to wait for that. If we've got time, we'll get into Cory Booker and Joe Biden over the weekend. Not looking good at all. For someone who's running for president of the United States, he's probably doing the worst at gathering up people and getting them excited to want to vote for him. Joe, poor Uncle Joe. And let's start off with some great news coming out of Donald Trump and the decisions that he is making up there in the White House. At the NRA, at SXDOC, Ken Jones, an absolute great patriot and one to follow. At POTUS, U.S. withdraws from UN Arms Trade Treaty. Trump informs the Senate to discontinue the treaty ratification process and return rejected treaty back to me in the Oval Office. And as you can see right there, Donald Trump is signing it at the NRA right there. And his signature on the document as he then shows everybody at the NRA conference. This is a great step forward. This was something that we were worried about back during Obama's reign of terror. During his reign of terror, he was colluding with the UN to somehow work out deals to get our guns out of our hands. And we clearly see what happened in Venezuela when they gave up the right to bear arms over 10 years ago. Venezuela giving up the right to bear arms over 10 years ago, and now they are facing their own military shooting at innocent civilians, no way to protect themselves. And real quick, I want to give a shout out to a good friend of ours on Twitter at Coda Vets, Gretchen. Gretchen has made it a personal life goal to help out veterans, military veterans in need. And there's a lot of military veterans coming back with PTSD, having a lot of problems adjusting and getting back into society. And I've said this before, so if you're new on the show, if you've never heard this story, I'll just make it real quick. Back in the 90s, I was in the Air Force, and I was stationed in Italy during Desert Storm in support of Operation Deny Flight and Decisive Edge. I was in a machine shop, and I was there to help maintain 43 F-16s, 2 squadrons, the triple nickel and the 5 and dime. And whenever something would break, because 90% of damage done to aircraft is done by mechanics. Sorry, guys. It's true. They would call us out to the flight line. We'd go out there and we inspect the aircraft, decide based on the TCTOs whether to replace it, to repair it, and then what the repair procedures would be, and then move forward with it. After I left that job, or after I left the military and I come back into the civilian world, I'm like, great. I'm going to go get a job at an airport, going to work for Delta, work for FedEx, working on aircraft. That's what I want to do the rest of my life. That's a fantastic idea. I love being around aircraft. No, never to touch another aircraft for the rest of my life. That's fact. No, folks, what I was allowed to do in the military, what I was trained to do and allowed to do in the military does not qualify me for nothing. Coming back to the civilian world, responsible for $40 million aircraft, responsible for even some of the aircraft even larger than that, responsible for the Thunderbirds when they came into town, if you will. The responsibility, the level of responsibility, the security clearances that we had, huge. Get back in the civilian world, nothing. No respect for that whatsoever. Training, those documents, they mean absolutely nothing. Very, very frustrating for especially Air Force veterans coming out wanting to get back into that type of work. My cousin, a Marine Corps, worked on aircraft as well. Nope, that doesn't mean nothing. You come back to the civilian world, that means nothing. And so it's frustrating for veterans coming back in the civilian world and making that transition. There's nobody there to tell us or to say, hey, here's a heads up on how that transition works and what your next steps should be. There's no planning for that. And so Gretchen Smith absolutely steps in to help out. And we have a veteran right now. We have a veteran right now that is in need of some help. And at Code of Vets, Aldrich and family in Alabama will be homeless on Wednesday. Eric is learning to live again. We assisted 123 vets this week. Please decide to help.
Hey, it's Gretchen with Coda Vets. I just have a couple of things I need to chat with you guys tonight about very quickly, and Aldrich is first on my list. I'm going to be looking at an email that Cindy just sent me. She sent this out earlier this morning, and she wanted us to be aware of where she's at on working with Aldrich. And FYI, he's been working on an appeals process for several years now, so that's been part of the issue with this family. And this is from Cindy. It says, I sent out an email today to Wells Fargo with the document of hearing on June 7th. His hearing has been expedited to June 7th of this year regarding his benefits. And she just wanted Wells Fargo, who is foreclosing on their home, to be aware of that. Also, they have to be out of their house by Wednesday of next week. So that's why we're in such a urgent rush to get them the funds that they need. So spoke with Kevin. This is another one of our guys who works behind the scenes with us, and he is in Alabama as well, as along with Aldrich and his family. Spoke with Kevin about rental requirements for Ideal and how to approach. Asked Aldrich if he could think of anything else we could do to minimize the stress him and his family are under. We talked about many things. His response was, "You all have done so much to assist in the last 30 days. Just giving a darn has gone further than anything else. Just walking with us has done more than you will ever know." And then at the end of this email, Cindy put to me, "Gee, this isn't about money or a house or an appeal. It's about getting this family through all of this, still loving and caring about each other. Aldrich and Mary are my heroes, and they are true warriors." So we are stepping up to the plate, and we are walking with this family during this difficult, stressful time in their life. They are being evicted. They're being foreclosed, and we're trying to raise $3,000 to alleviate some of the burden. Aldrich does have PTSD. This has him incredibly triggered.
So if you are in a position to help, if you've been blessed, if God has blessed you, and you have the ability to bless someone else, this would be a cause to get involved in. And again, at Coda Vets, Gretchen, shout out. She's phenomenal. She's fantastic. We had her at American Priorities Conference to speak, and she is just an incredible warrior on the ground for us veterans. And we thank you very, very much, Gretchen. And again, thank you for watching New Right Network's original series, Smith TV, the real news, exposing the fake news. And why do we expose the fake news? Because we gotta, we have to. And fake news CNN at Francis_712, CNN's ratings dropping a full 26% in April 2019 compared to the same month in 2018, and MSNBC's down 14% in the same time period. It should be clear how little the two networks have gotten back on their investment in the resistance. Fact, not fiction, folks. They are feeling the pain, and a lot of this pain is coming because they've gaslit their entire base by leading them to believe that there was something there with Donald Trump and Russian collusion. All of a sudden, that thing is blown up in their face, and there is nothing left. Just some updates real quick on the Russia gate. At A Red Pill Report, and another must follow. I get great information, quick breaking news coming out of A Red Pill Report. Huge Mueller lied. Nunez drops bomb and reveals State Department met with Joseph Misfed in 2017 in Washington, D.C. Yep, that's right, folks. It's all coming to pass. Misfed was a FBI asset and tasked to hang out with or get involved with George Papadopoulos and some of the others so that the FBI could file the FISA warrant on Papadopoulos and Carter Page in order to spy on them with the notion that they have Russian ties because they couldn't find Russian ties. So now they had to make up and create and invent Russian ties. And this, our good friend George Papadopoulos, here on Fox News explaining all.
And we begin this morning with a look back at the Russia probe. We are taking a closer look this morning at the probable cause and whether there, in fact, was probable cause to start a criminal investigation into Donald Trump in 2016 and 17. We know that the special counsel found no collusion, no obstruction. We also know that the Obama Justice Department and FBI spied on the Trump campaign. These are facts. But was there a legal predicate, a probable cause to justify spying one political campaign, spying on another political campaign? This is what Attorney General William Barr says he is investigating right now. Now, so far, the FBI has claimed that it launched an investigation into Donald Trump in the summer of 2016 and spied on members of his campaign because of this man, George Papadopoulos, and a conversation that he had with an Australian diplomat. We are taking that right now directly to the source. Joining me right now is George Papadopoulos, former Trump campaign aide, author of the book Deep State Target. George, it is good to have you on the program this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Maria.
I want you to take us back to how this all began, because when you and I were talking about what you went through, it was actually stunning to me in terms of the level of people that reached out to you. First, before we go through this timeline that is really stunning, and I want our viewers to focus on this, I want to ask you, have you ever been to Russia?
I've never been to Russia, no.
Do you have any colleagues, associates that work in Russia or for the Russian government?
Absolutely not. In fact, I was working at a neoconservative think tank for 5 years, leading up to joining both the Carson and Trump campaigns, and I was in the energy business.
Okay.
So as an American doing those two things, you're not working with the Russians at all, and you're not promoting their interests.
Straight from the horse's mouth, right from Papadopoulos. They also claim that Papadopoulos' girlfriend at the time and fiance and now wife was a Russian asset. Just listen to her speak. Sorry, guys, I listened to her speak. She's Italian, 100% Italian, an incredible woman at that. So you got that one wrong. You got George Papadopoulos wrong. And this at SX Doc, Ken Jones, in U.S. law, person is innocent until proven guilty. Mueller report, Weissman wrote, thinks guilty unless can prove innocence. They were never supposed to exonerate the president, but they never found enough evidence to charge corrupt Democrats. The evidence is now that the president was falsely accused of colluding with the Russians and accused of being treasonous. 2 years of his administration have been dominated by allegations that have now been proven false. May 1st, 2019. That's a direct quote from Attorney General William Barr. And yes, the Russian collusion is completely fallen apart and they've got nothing left. And then we have this article today out of the Washington Times. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler has scheduled a vote Wednesday to hold Attorney General William Barr in contempt of Congress after he refused to provide an unredacted version of the special counsel's Robert Mueller's report to Congress. Here's the point, folks. He provided to them 99% unredacted of the first half and 98% of unredacted to the second half to all Democrats in Congress. Every single one of them refused to meet with him and view the documents. Why? Because if they did, then they'd have nothing to scream and yell about anymore. This is all they have. They're going to continue to run with this and thinking that this is going to ruin Trump. This is going to win them the White House. This is how they're going to win. False, not going to work. This is absolutely destroying them. And I'm loving every minute of it. Go ahead, Democrats, keep running with it. It's not going to work, but that's okay. You guys take it. And as we're shifting gears, we've definitely got to put Islam on the hot seat. We've got to put Islam front and center because Islam is now infiltrated our Congress, has infiltrated our country. We know of tens of thousands of refugees that have come up through the Mexican border that are now being resettled into camps. We now know that there are jihadist camps in America training and weaponizing those Islamic believers to then carry out jihadist attacks on Americans, on American soil. And with these individuals in Congress, Omar being privy to classified information that the government has in possession is it's beyond dangerous. I say dangerous. It's beyond dangerous, and we've got to call it out as we see it. And this at newrightnetwork.com. The link in the description is below. Time to call our enemies by their name, terrorist. Senator Ted Cruz and Mario Diaz have been trying to get the Muslim Brotherhood designated as a terrorist organization. Is now the time. This by Fred Warner. Incredible article. Thank you so much, Fred, for writing this and putting this up. And just the first paragraph, just to get you guys fired up to go read this. The Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Bill. The United States government has joined Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, Russia, and Syria in designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization. The Senate bill, sponsored by Ted Cruz, and the House bill, sponsored by Mario Diaz of Florida, both achieve this change. We absolutely have to call a spade and call them out for this. It is great to see that we still have nationalist, America First agenda Congress people that are willing to do the heavy lifting and do what it takes in order to call these things out. And folks, we have put together an organization, Justice Patriots, to counter Justice Democrats. Justice Patriots is our organization. The America First agenda, the Make America Great Again, the Keep America Great agenda, to support new MAGA candidates, to support candidates that are running for Congress and running for office. And speaking of that, I just want to reference Laura Loomer real quick. She's a good friend of ours, a good friend of the show. Thank you, folks, for your prayers over the weekend. Laura Loomer, frustrated. I can absolutely... I have empathy. I can sympathize with you. I am in the camp with you. Not as harsh as you've gotten it, but I can only think about how bad it is and the frustration and the turmoil that you're going through right now. And all our prayers going out to you over the entire weekend from our Patreons as well as those on social media. She is doing better now, folks. So she's back in the fight, back in the fray, as she has been attempted to be unpersoned by social media. Her life's goal, what she went to college for and went to school for, to become a journalist, an undercover journalist, and a phenomenal journalist that she is. And now all of a sudden, as a journalist and a writer, you are deplatformed, you're taken off social media, and you have no voice. This is beyond anything that we can imagine. Think about that for a minute. That your life's goal, the thing that you've worked on your entire life, your passion, what you want to do, and that's been ripped away from you so that you cannot do that. Laura Loomer has not announced, I don't believe, as the airing of the show has not announced for Congress, but she is toying with the notion. And Laura, if you're watching, we're telling you, all in. We are with you. We are behind you. I think that would be a phenomenal goal, a great thing to do to get Laura Loomer elected to Congress and flip the tables on the big tech silencing of conservative media. And as we're talking about Islam, and this is why she's been silenced, because she's been so vocal about Islam. She was vocal about Ilhan Omar. She's vocal about Rashida Tlaib, these newly elected, I mean, you could call them Democrats, but they're beyond a Democrat party. Hardcore socialist, Islamist, wearing of the hijab and the garb, promoting slavery. Because that's what Islam is. Islam is slavery of women, forcing them to wear the hijab and the garb and submit to their man. No freedom for women. And they're promoting this in our schools in Minnesota. Minnesota's lost. I don't know how we're getting Minnesota back, but we got to keep on fighting. And we've got to expose Islam and the Islamic barbarianism. And this at Gert Wilder, SPVV. If you want to get international news, you absolutely must follow him on Twitter. And for those of you audio only, you're witnessing, there's a woman, she's public flogging. This is what they do. They if you break the rules or you break the law, you are drugged into public, and this woman, dressed head to toe in her garb, and publicly flogged until she passes out. That is common practice in Islam. That's common practice in these places around the world. And so now you have a man being brought to the town square where he will be publicly flogged as well. You got the one that's doing the flogging in complete facial garb where he's covered from head to toe. This is something straight out of the mid 6th, 7th, 8th century, the Dark Ages. This is what they do. This is what Islam does. And part 2, this is the second video of Islamic barbarianism. And you don't need the sound, but I'll describe it for those of you audio only. This is what seems to be a child's birthday in Islam. All the girls are dressed up and covered up. The wives are covered up. And a young, what looks to be about a 7-year-old boy, has a sword in his arm and screaming Allah, Allahu Akbar. And he's making the notion of cutting off the head of his animal. And as he's doing that, somebody throws what looks to be red Kool-Aid on the ground. Everybody's laughing and cheering as he's sawing away at the animal, screaming Allahu Akbar. This is what they do at birthday parties. Folks, if this makes you upset and this is disturbing, good. You need to be upset and disturbed because this is what Islam does. There's make no bones about it. This is on full display Islam. And the Daily Caller tweets out, at CNN, wrote over 20 articles on the Covington Catholic students. The Covington Catholic boys that were in D.C. and stood there while an Indian beat his drum to intimidate the boys. So CNN wrote over 20 articles on the boys, but ignores Philadelphia's Muslim children chanting about chopping off heads. Philadelphia, children chanting about chopping off heads and singing their songs about chopping off heads. That's what you get in America as well. It's the same thing. Do not let them make you think that Islam overseas is different than Islam in America. Islam is Islam, and Islam does what Islam does. It is a violent cult of anger, hate, and again, the religion of the devil. I said last week, if the devil had a religion, it would be Islam. I am convinced that Islam is Satan's answer to Christianity. Satan, after Christ died, Satan had about 500 years to think about what to do. And lo and behold, Muhammad got him all hopped up on something. He had some disease, going crazy, and decided, okay, I'm going to develop this reign of terror, and the only way that people will join is by forcefully terrorizing them to force them to join. That's what Islam does. And over the weekend, as I said, there were some horrific things happening because of the start of Ramadan. Islam attacked Israel, and at first it was reported that there were hundreds of rockets that were launched at Israel. Today, looking at the news, and this at HIKINDDOV, after more than 500 rockets were fired by Hamas terrorists from the Gaza Strip at Israel, killing 4. Not a single Democrat candidate for president has issued a statement or said a word on it. Shame on at the Democrats, the whole lot of them.
In the last 24 hours, 500 missiles have been directed against the people of Israel. 4 Israeli civilians have been murdered by the terrorists of Hamas. Many others have been wounded.
You see the destruction that 500 rockets create.
Where are the 22 candidates for president, Democrats? Where are they to say one single word about the terrorism being directed against the people of Israel, against civilians? Shame on the Democrats. Shame on you for being silent while Israel is under attack. Over 500 missiles shot at Israel. The purpose to murder innocent men, women, and children. Where are you? Where are you, Sanders, Biden, and the other 24 people running for president? Absolute silence. Shame on you. Shame on the Democrats.
As you see an Israeli flag flying. The Democrats are sinking themselves. Every decision they made under Barack Hussein Obama was a failed decision, and now the decisions that they're making currently are failed decisions as well. Now we have not only the walkaway movement with Brandon Straka, we also have Blexit, with Candace Owens, and now a new walkaway, Jexodus, the exit of Jews from the Democrat Party. If you are Jewish and you are voting for Democrats, you obviously have been gaslit, you've been propagandized, and you have been tricked because they have never cared about you at all. And whether you're a big fan of Ben Shapiro or not, that's irrelevant. It does not matter. At Ben Shapiro tweeted this out. The second video is from last night. It is the reaction of the Palestinians in the streets to Hamas's rockets falling on civilian Jews. And as you can see them cheering in the streets, screaming Allahu Akbar as the rockets are launching. Just a little bit of a timeline. I know there's some people out there that are not, maybe younger, maybe older, but not quite, kind of hazy on the timeline and the details of what really is going on with the Gaza Strip and Israel. Back when I was a kid, I was talked about and told that Israel has now finally become a state. And now moving forward, the appeasement of Islam or the Palestinians and giving back the Gaza Strip, part of what Israel had occupied, and forcing in 2005, forcing people that lived there that were Jewish, that were from the state of Israel, forcing all businesses and homes and everybody to withdraw in order to appease the Palestinians, thinking that that was going to stop the violence. No, we all knew this. We knew it. We knew what was going to happen. So the Palestinians take over Gaza, and then within 2 years, 2007, Hamas took over the Gaza Strip in a coup against the Palestinian Authority government, reported by Breitbart News. You definitely want to get your information, Breitbart.com, and in their article they write, turned Gaza into a terrorist launch pad using civilian areas in the territory to launch rockets at Israeli cities and digging tunnels to infiltrate Israel territory, kidnapping Israeli soldiers, which successfully happened in a case back in 2006. So they thinking that giving them land, giving Palestinians a state or a two-state system where Palestinians have their own state, Israel has their own state, now we've got peace. That two-state system, has been talked about by politicians all the time, pandering back and forth. We need a two-state system. Omar, Rashida Tlaib, the Islamist in Congress, two-state system. No, you can't have, and to coexist. You cannot coexist with Islam. No one can. You either submit to Islam or you die. And we see that right now. And at Zionist Girl 18, wow, breaking. Today, the Israeli Air Force targeted Hamas Amin Khadari in the Gaza Strip. He was responsible for the transferring Iranian money to Hamas and Islamic Jihad. The funds were used to build the hundreds of rockets recently fired on Israel. Hashtag IDF. And for those of you audio only, I'll describe, it is a video from an aircraft following a car, and then you see the rocket launched and the car is blown to smithereens. Under Barack Hussein Obama, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars given to Iran. Iran allowed to roam the world free, selling drugs and creating an entire drug cartel, enriching themselves by selling drugs across the border back to America. Americans getting addicted to these drugs and the money going back to Iran, allowing them to create terror, wreak terror across the globe. Obama's administration standing down, told to stand down, refusing to investigate, refusing to get involved in these things. What an absolute shame. I mean, when people say that the worst president we've ever had, the worst president that we've ever had that we know of, and the things that he has done that are now being exposed, Absolutely horrendous. Now we have this up by BreitbartNews.com. Not one Democrat presidential candidate defends Israel during the rocket attacks, as you see right there, all the rockets that are being launched. And in the article, it shows Donald Trump's tweet. Donald Trump tweeted out, once again, Israel faces a barrage of deadly rocket attacks by the terrorist group Hamas and Islamic Jihad. We support Israel 100% in its defense of the citizens. And we go back to Ilhan Omar, which we've got to keep talking about this one. This is Islam in Congress, and Omar tweets out about the violence. She tweeted out about the rocket attacks and during the weekend and the start of Ramadan, terror on the world. Ilhan Omar, how many more protesters must be shot, rockets must be fired, and little kids must be killed until the endless cycle of violence ends? The status quo of occupation and humanitarian crisis in Gaza is unsustainable. Only real justice can bring about security and lasting peace. Sorry, Omar, there is no... the people who occupy Gaza are Hamas and Palestinians. Israelis and the like, the government doesn't occupy Gaza. That was 2005, and then the overthrow of the Palestinian Authority by Hamas in 2006-7. So check that out. Not only that, but she's referring to the protesters. Apparently, over the weekend, protesters had attempted to breach the walls of Israel, throwing homemade bombs and things of the like, and Israeli forces fought back, which absolutely entitled to. If somebody is violently attempting to breach your walls in order to wreak havoc and murder citizens, you absolutely have to stop that. Would you not stop an intruder that's invading your home? Of course you would. And so Ilhan using gaslighting techniques to get people to sympathy and side with her, which we're not going to do. We expose that here. And the fake news. Something else that is very, very disturbing, that Nancy Pelosi appointed Omar in January to the House Foreign Affairs Committee. January, House Foreign Affairs Committee, Ilhan Omar, appointed by Nancy Pelosi. Ilhan Omar, a sympathizer of Hamas, a sympathizer of Palestinian, a practicing Muslim of Allah. We've got a problem. This woman must be ousted. We must get rid of her. And the problem of taking over and winning an election and ousting her, the problem is that her district is all these refugees, these Muslim refugees that have been resettled during Barack Obama's reign, and just very, very difficult. We've got to get our own people in office around the country in order to bring back the laws that say if you are a practicing Muslim in Islam, you cannot. It is illegal to hold office in this country. And the reason why is because you are attempting to overthrow our rules and our laws of this country. That's why you can't hold office. And this at Liz_Cheney. 1, Hamas controls Gaza. 2, Hamas is firing rockets at civilians in Israel. 3, Ilhan Omar is defending Hamas. Real question is, how many times will Ilhan rush to the defense of the terrorists? Liz Cheney, an elected official, thank you so much for pointing this out. I'm glad that these elected officials are pointing this out. I wonder if they'll be banned from Facebook and Twitter, as our friends have been banned from Facebook and Twitter, the ones who have been so instrumental in helping to get Donald Trump elected in 2016. Our good friend Paul Joseph Watson at Prison Planet, our very good friend Laura Loomer, and one that nobody talks about much anymore because he was one of the first ones to be banned a long, long time ago. Yiannopoulos, Milo. We used to follow him on Twitter as well. And he got kicked off Twitter because he went to go see the Ghostbusters Redux, if you will, that had a cast of all women. Heavyset social justice warriors, and the secretary was replaced with a man. Right. It was an awful movie. Nothing was changed. All the words were the same. It was almost the identical movie, just to flip the script and make it women and not men. So he critiqued it and said that it was not a very good movie at all. It was an awful movie. And the claim was that people who follow him fat shamed these actresses on social media. And that's why Twitter banned Milo, is because of supposedly his following was fat shaming women on Twitter. So now you're responsible for what other people say. Just very awful. It's just awful. And Sarah Carter at Sarah Carter DC, IDF message to Hamas terrorist, transferring Iranian money to Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad doesn't make you a businessman. It makes you a terrorist. And she shows a picture of the bombed car. And at Robbie Starbuck, Iran's IRGC general says, we will squeeze America's throat until it chokes. This is our mission and our responsibility to bring an end to America's life. President Obama gave Iran $50 billion plus and $1.8 billion in cash. Trump designated the IRGC as a terrorist organization. Contrast and compare those those administrations. How polar opposite.
Law should supersede the U.S. Constitution. Earlier today, we sent out Fox News contributor David Webb to an Islamic cultural center in New York City. Now watch this closely.
Your thoughts, should Sharia law supersede the U.S. Constitution?
No, but I think the Sharia law is made by God, by Allah, and the Constitution is made by people. So it's not the same.
Do you believe that Sharia law should be above the U.S. Constitution?
Yes.
Sharia law is completely different than the United States Constitution. As a Muslim, you practice my Islamic law. As a Muslim, but United States Constitution, as a citizen, I have to respect the Constitution. Nothing to do with Sharia law. As a Muslim country, Sharia law is allowed. Other country, no. You have to have a right constitution.
Should any religious law supersede the U.S. Constitution at any time? Any denomination?
Maybe in the future.
The U.S. Constitution deserve all the people living in U.S. their rights, right? So Sharia law does not contradict with this. Sharia law just protect our dignified. We are like human being, be respectful. To be respectful in the society.
So you think that the U.S. Constitution should be the law of the land in the U.S.?
Also helpful to protect our Sharia.
Should Sharia law be over the U.S. Constitution?
Yes, maybe.
So what they're saying, and the one guy was trying to mix it up, is that Sharia law protects us. He is attempting to get people to believe that Sharia law is it's a little bit extra. It's a little bit more. It helps to protect our dignity, and we become better people, and we follow a more strict law. No, sorry. No, Sharia law takes away human dignity and human rights, especially those of women, forcing them into slave state. And as I said earlier, this is at Rod Stryker. Must follow this one. Happy Ramadan greetings from the Philadelphia Muslim Society. Kids sing about chopping off heads of the infidels and conquering Israel through hateful jihad. Has Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib denounced their prodigies yet? Shut this down at the Justice Department. And you see these kids just singing away, little song. And as our children at Sunday school sing, Jesus loves you. This I know, for the Bible tells me so. Jesus loves you. We teach our children about love and caring for one another. They're teaching their children that it is appropriate when necessary to chop the heads off of infidels who do not conform to your ways. And this at Bruce Alrighty 45, Palestinians are jihadists. Get real. We aren't stupid. Self-described Palestinians don't want peace, and you know it. They rather see a 7-year-old carry out a suicide grenade into Israel than a 17-year-old graduating high school. resign and go back to Palestine. That was in response to Rashida Tlaib, person in Congress, elected official. She tweeted out, "When will the world stop dehumanizing our Palestinian people who just want to be free? Headlines like this and framing it in this way just feeds into the continuing lack of responsibility on Israel, who unjustly oppresses and targets Palestinian children and family." No, sorry, Tashila Relib, that is not true. And this tweeted out as well at M. Blankfield. If you want to know what Rashida Tlaib's real intentions are, see her with the pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah activists with her Palestinian wrapped around our Congress building. There you go. She's hanging out with terrorists. I guess years gone by, back in the day, the ghost of John McCain, we had seen John McCain and pictures of John McCain with a terrorist, and that rose a lot of awareness and, people calling him out. This apparently nothing whatsoever. And at Helper2, today is Monday, May 6, 2019. And in the past 30 days, there were 91 Islamic attacks in 24 countries, in which 633 people were killed and 1,259 injured. I say it again. In the last 30 days, 91 Islamic attacks, 24 countries, 633 people were killed and 1,259 injured. And just to back up at Helper2's tweet is, go figure, CBSNews.com. How about that? CBSNews.com, Islamic extremism caused 84,000 deaths worldwide in 2017, new report says. Link in the description below. Nearly 22,000 of them civilians in 66 countries in 2017. Islamic Caliphate on world display, and now you even have CBS accidentally reporting on it. And at Zionist Girl 18, Palestinians celebrating in the streets after 9/11. Hashtag flashback. CNN report, will the children show here clip one day be congressmen? Did Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar, Linda Sauer, celebrate also? Hashtag Jexodus. Very good point, because we now know there are pictures of Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar cheering or chanting and causing problems at Donald Trump rallies. Yeah. And if you want the real news about Islam, this one must follow at Pamela Geller. Watch, Muslim men on the street in Germany share their views on rape. Women who are dressed, quoting, women who are dressed deserve it if they aren't dressed like Muslim women. Sex slavery and rape of the infidel is sanctioned and rewarded under Islam. Respected Islamophobes. This is absolutely 100% true. We see the no-go zones in France, the no-go zones in Europe, all over Europe, the UK. And if you go in the no-go zone, you run the risk of being raped. Women in France are now wearing the headgear and the garb of Islam because they want to avert themselves from being raped. So now you're submitting. They've won. You have submitted. They won. Just like New Zealand Prime Minister donning the garb, as I reported, you have submitted to Islam. Islam has now conquered New Zealand. Not only that, but the Prime Minister and the people voted. The elected officials voted to remove guns and weapons that the terrorists, the crazed, insane terrorists used in the killing of Muslims to now be banned in New Zealand. Good luck with that. And as we reported last week, Paul Joseph Watson, Laura Loomer, Milo, and Alex Jones all banned on Facebook and Instagram. Paul Joseph Watson was very vocal over the weekend, and he tweeted out at Prison Planet, even as Facebook claims it is removing extremist personalities and content from its platform, pages expressing support for Hamas, a terrorist group that has killed civilians, remains fully active This at summit.news. So if you want to get anything from Paul Joseph Watson and Real News, go to summit.news. And these pages are still up, the pro-Hamas pages. And well, not only pro-Hamas pages, but we also have, again, elected officials tweeting out and supporting of a terrorist organization. And if you follow me on Twitter, you saw that over the weekend, we put out a tweet about Laura Loomer. She took action over the weekend and Instagram at culture, CULTTURE. Hashtag Laura Loomer went to Facebook headquarters in Silicon Valley on Friday in protest of this week's Facebook and Instagram purge. Quote, I am making a plea from the lobby of Facebook to stop the bias.
I mean, it's egregious. It's absolutely egregious that these billionaires, people like Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, have this much power. It is absolutely egregious. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe that these executives have become more powerful than the President of the United States himself, that they are just censoring and silencing conservatives at the click of a button. With a click of a button, your entire life can be over, okay? Your entire existence can be eradicated from the internet if you are deemed a dangerous person, okay?
Yet we have politicians that are dangerous to our country and to our Constitution, yet they are deemed okay to continue with their rhetoric of supporting terrorist organizations. And this at Deplorable Choir, you absolutely should follow them. Incredible stuff. My friend was banned on Facebook for this video. And at The Gru, Facebook banned Laura Loomer, Milo, and Alex. Who's next? Well, if you support Trump, it's probably going to be you.
Facebook has banned Laura Loomer, Alex Jones, and Milo Yiannopoulos, labeled them dangerous. I guess being a conservative and supporting a president is dangerous. I'd love to be labeled dangerous. What a great marketing tool. He was labeled too dangerous for social media. Dangerous, like punk rock. I've always said that being a conservative today is like being a punker in the 70s. We are dangerous. But I do miss the old days when no one was banned online and the internet policed itself. You're thinking, well, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. The snowflakes grew up, never having their beliefs challenged or having to take any responsibility for their own actions. A group of whiny little bitches used to getting their way whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted it, and cost them nothing because mommy or daddy or someone else paid for it. It kind of explains Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez too, doesn't it?
Good stuff. Good stuff. I love to bring this stuff to you guys because there's a lot of people who listen to the show either audio only or online and do not or aren't on social media. And this is how we stay connected on social media and fight back. We absolutely got to continue the movement forward, keeping America great, America First agenda. And again, Justice Patriots, the new organization to fight back against Justice Democrats and the left-wing crazy nonsense. And to wrap it all up, let's end this with good news. We've got some incredible news coming out of Trump's economy, labeled down in the show notes as Trump World. And over on newrightnetwork.com, Trump's economy, what the left doesn't want you to know. With the new jobs report out, 2020 is looking more like a win for President Trump. Can the left compete with Trump's economy? This by the great writer Rose Taylor. She put this up today, matter of fact. The left cannot compete with Trump's economy, while the left has spent 2+ years sniffling for another conspiracy to chase President Trump has been hard at work. Although Trump has made significant progress in many areas, the main area that the mainstream media does not want to talk about is the economy. The mainstream media and the liberal politicians avoid talking about Trump's economy like it's the plague. And yes, they are absolutely avoiding it like the plague. They've got to. And I love social media and the opportunities that we have now to stay plugged into our elected officials 24/7. And this at Steve Scalise, talking with Fox News. Steve Scalise, Republicans in Congress working with Donald Trump to cut taxes and get regulations out of the way.
But wow, these jobs numbers, this is more proof of an economic boom in this country. Your reaction?
Yeah, Sandra, this is great news for American workers. I mean, you look at the numbers, 268,000 jobs. The estimates were going to be maybe less than 200. So this is even better news than we were expecting. Like you said, 49-year low in unemployment. And by the way, wages are up for hardworking families. And that's really, for those people that are trying to get into the middle class, become part of the American dream. That's the best news, that they now are seeing more money in their paychecks. So clearly the work that we did with President Trump to lower taxes and get regulations under control is paying huge dividends for American workers today.
Well, how about that? That is fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. And our good friend Josh Akins at Akins_Josh. It's not working for the Democrat overlords because their voting constituents are being self-reliant, and more will be able to step out of the government assistance. The power over the people is slipping away from the Democrats. And this was tweeted out, NJ.com politics, New Jersey politics. Economy under Trump is growing, but not for everyone, Booker says. Well, Booker, I don't know who you're talking about, but it looks like everybody with their tax returns, paying lower taxes, just excited about what is going on in the economy. More proof that Trumponomics wins. And this at SXDoc, the U.S. created 263,000 jobs in April. Unemployment fell to its lowest level since 1969. Trump's economic approval, 56%, according to CNN. Trump overall approval, 50 to 51. Some have it at 52. And some more great news about Donald Trump. Big milestone. Senate confirms 100 Trump judges, 2 SCOTUS, 37 appellate courts, 61 circuit courts, 2 pending for the 9th Circus courts, and more to come. 3rd Circuit turned red. And at Breitbart.com, blowout jobs report says private payroll skyrocketed by 275,000 in April. And the private sector added 275,000 in April, far more than expected. Data released by payroll company ADP and Moody's Analytics showed on Wednesday. This was last week. And if it's Donald Trump follows these policies, continuing to do the same thing over and over again, it's a winning plan. We have never seen a president ever with such a winning plan, sticking to it, sticking to his guns, picking the right men and women to help him lead this country. Phenomenal job. Something to truly get excited about. And again, folks, 2020 is around the corner. 2019 is here already. We've got to stay plugged in here at NewRightNetwork.com and Smith.TV. Again, your host, Brian Smith, wrapping up all the breaking news, making sense of it all, exposing the fake news, and giving you the real news. This is news that you're not going to get anywhere. Social media has it. The people that I'm plugged in with have it. Breitbart News, The Daily Caller, GatewayPundit.com. All of these outlets, folks, this is where you get the real news right here. Crush to share, crush to follow. Tell your friends and your family about it, and jump over on Smith.TV and help out real media exposing the fake news. All right, guys, have a good evening for Monday Motivation, and I'll see you tomorrow for Tuesday Thoughts.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at NewRightNetwork.com.